After all the speculations and projections, we finally got the numbers in for the second weekend of Captain America Brave New World, and they're not looking too good for Marvel and Disney. After the first weekend, it was kind of up in the air whether or not the film will ultimately be profitable. And I said in a video at the time that it was really predicated on how the box office drop is in the second weekend. I was saying it needs to probably maintain at least a 55% hold if they wanted to be profitable at the box office. But after this weekend, it's looking like that's not going to be the case. Box Office Mojo right here reports that from Friday to Friday, it had around 82% drop off, and then pretty significant 53% during the next Saturday, and then 59% Sunday. So not a really good hold on it, but when it's all said and done, I think there's going to be some people out there who are going to try to argue that this movie was ultimately profitable. There's some people who don't seem to understand how box offices work, and they think, well, it made more money than its reported budget. That means it made money. No, that's not really how it works. I'm not going to address people like that because I don't think they can even understand the nuances of these sort of things. But for the people who actually do understand this stuff, this is more for you right here, because even movies that they make in the MCU that they claim are profitable and even at a glance look like they're profitable for most people, when you really dive into the numbers that's being reported, it's looking like Disney doesn't actually make as much money at the theaters as what some people would think. This article from That Park Place talks about much of the issues when it comes to Captain America Brave New World. It's operating under the projections because this article was written before the final tallies were for the numbers. That's why I showed you Box Office Mojo first, but it was pretty much in line with what was being reported on in this article. So the projections, it seemed like, were fairly accurate. Captain America Brave New World second weekend drop puts future of Marvel in serious question. Captain America Brave New World has emerged as one of Marvel Studios' most underperforming films, marked by significant box office declines and a tepid global reception. Despite an initial domestic opening of $88.5 million over a 3-day weekend and almost exactly $100 million across the 4-day President's Day weekend, including Thursday previews as well. So basically $100 million in the first 5 days. The film experienced a sharp 68% drop in the second weekend, according to projections. Now that's confirmed, earning only $28.1 million. However, the 82% drop from the first Friday to second Friday signals that the projections could be rosy and this film could be much worse than analysts are giving it credit. No, it's pretty much in line with what the analysts were speculating. It had around a 68% drop during its second weekend. Historically, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has maintained a robust box office performance, with films typically experiencing moderate second weekend declines. For instance, Black Panther saw a mere 44.7% drop, while Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Avengers Infinity War each had a 55.5% decline. And those are pretty decent holds for those movies because they had huge opening weekends. But like I was saying, when it came to Captain America Brave New World, this is pretty much the minimum of what they were hoping for in order to hope that they can break even, considering how, while at a glance, the opening weekend looked great, it really wasn't so much considering how much they spent. And like I said, this is assuming that they only spent $180 million on a movie that even some of Marvel's defenders will say that they still had to reshoot 25% of. Several factors contribute to this underperformance. The film received mixed reviews with a 49% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes and an average rating of 5.5 out of 10. Now, this is talking about the critic score, and I usually don't put a whole lot of weight in what critics are saying about a movie. Audiences is where the money's at. But for this one, the audience score was around 80%, which that might seem good at a glance, but keep in mind that the Marvels was at 81% on Rotten Tomatoes for audiences. So it seems like a lot of people like the Marvels more than they like this movie. And these are the people who are seeing it opening weekend. This is the verified audience score. So the people who saw the marketing in the lead up, heard all the news about what's going on behind the scenes and all that stuff, and they thought, yeah, this is still a movie I want to go see in theaters. They pay to watch it opening weekend, and then the best they can get is it was okay, I guess. Now, for something like this, Marvel movies tend to be front loaded because a lot of the Marvel fans are excited to see the new Marvel movie and they're going to go out and watch it during its opening weekend. And if the best that they can muster is the film is just okay, that's not enough to bring more people into the fold. It's not going to bring people in who are kind of on the fence. Now, I think there would have been a better hold during the second weekend if this had, like, let's say a 95% or more audience score, because then there's some people who weren't really sure about the movie. They're like, do I really want to spend my hard earned money? But if people are coming back and saying the movie is just fantastic, you have to go see it. And then they see the reception to it is very positive. Then they might think like, okay, I wasn't sure, but I guess I'll go see it in theaters now. But we didn't really get that when it came to this movie. Additionally, audiences polled by CinemaScore awarded the film a B-, the lowest grade for an MCU film to date. And that's also another big thing too, the lowest for any MCU film. So worse than the Marvels, worse than Eternals, worse than Shang-Chi, all these other Marvel movies that people didn't really like. This is polling worse than those movies. Now, CinemaScore is more or less polling people's impressions of a movie in the lead up to it versus after they saw the movie. And it seems like a lot of people didn't, or were saying that the film didn't really meet their expectations, at least worse so than any other movie in the MCU. Now it just kind of talks about a lot of the production challenges that potentially inflated the budget so much so that the movie needs to make over $1 billion in order to be profitable. I'm just kind of operating on the assumption that this is in fact a $180 million movie, which I personally have my doubts about. But when this is all said and done, this might make around $450 million at the global box office, which some people might think, given the budget, that that's going to be enough for it to actually be profitable, but that might not be the case. So I have the numbers pulled up for the MCU as a whole, and I notice a lot of movies, they have so you can see the budgets and then the other movies that they or how much they made at the worldwide box office. So you can see Captain America and what they got so far, just under around $290 million. Other movies that were flops, the Marvels here, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, that was a flop for them. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, I believe that that made some money. I can't be sure about it, but one thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to this one is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because that looks like it's surely profitable for them. So $250 million budget, around $845 million that they made at the global box office. That seems like a good amount for them. But I remember seeing this article from Deadline talking about it. This is dated April of 2024. So at the time they were saying that this is the only movie that Marvel really released in 23 that was profitable for them. And they have this breakdown right here. And one thing I think is kind of interesting about all this is you can see it made $845 million at the box office, but then it says the revenue that it generated from that was $374 million. And a lot of people might not understand why that is. They think like, well, don't they get half of the box office? And no, because they made a lot of their money internationally, and at international box offices, they get less of a take. Domestically, it is around 50%. But internationally, it can vary. China, for instance, the studio only gets around 30%, and the theater gets 70% of that. And then other countries have their own thing here, but you can see how most of the money was generated overseas for this one. And when you factor in how much revenue they generated off of how much it actually took at the worldwide box office, it's just over 40%. And then they also include the home entertainment, television, and streaming. Home entertainment is another interesting one because they say $120 million there, but according to the numbers, the total for that is just under $15 million, significantly less. And then they say television and streaming, $180 million generated, but they only really license it to, I mean, I guess they could license it to some stuff on TV, but a lot of that television and streaming revenue is basically Disney paying themselves to license it on their own streaming service, which that's not really the company making money. But when you factor all this in with the expenses, they say the studio made $124 million off of $845 million global haul, which isn't a whole lot for a movie like this. So when you take all this into consideration, it's really doubtful that Captain America: Brave New World, even with a $450, maybe $500 million global take, it would need in order for it to be profitable. And like I said, with the way we saw the box office drop this second weekend, it's doubtful that it's going to get to that mark. Maybe just over 400. It'll probably, let's just go back. Right now, it's trailing behind Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and that was able to bring in $463 million globally. So it's probably going to be a little bit less than that. Like I said, maybe $450 million tops. So not enough for the movie to actually be profitable at the global box office, unless for some reason the next weekends are really good if they don't have any drop off, but that's highly doubtful at this time. It seems like people gave this movie a shot, didn't really care for it, and that's really the end of that. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.